listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020, middle of the weekday, hump day, starting that long, slow glide down to Pauhana Friday, and whatever insanity is in store for us in the next few days here, which it looks like there's going to be a lot. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to report the news until we start running out of news, at which point we will open the phone lines for your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. So let's just get right on into it. As has been the trend ever since Election Day, more and more evidence and testimony, whistleblowing regarding election fraud is surfacing. It is now overwhelmingly obvious that this was the crookedest election in United States history. Now, they had these public hearings both in Arizona and Michigan. We talked about Arizona yesterday, where Arizona certified the election for Biden right in the middle of the hearing. Didn't even want to hear any of these people coming forward and saying, look, there's something funny going on here. And so there are people there out there trying to get this done. They're trying to do it legally. They're trying to do it through the process. And of course, they're running into a lot of brick walls, which is, I imagine, very frustrating for them when they know what happened. Okay. Up in Detroit, there's a poll watcher, Articia Bomer, and she claimed to witness multiple examples of irregularities and violations of Michigan election law at the polls on election night, and basically said there were phony Biden ballots, that Trump ballots were being discarded. And she said, I hope my statement is taken seriously. I am sharing this information under penalty of perjury, that if I testify, I could be locked up if I'm telling a lie, which I'm not. So it's a very courageous thing for her to do. When you consider yesterday's story about where one of the witnesses to these election integrity hearings was put in the hospital, just attacked and severely beaten and hospitalized. Anyway, so Bomber went off with some examples of things she witnessed on election night. And she said on November 3rd, between 9:30 and 10 p.m., I reported to TCF Center. I was assigned two separate tables, absentee voting county board 123 and 120. And I immediately noticed things were not normal. Election workers were allowed to wear Biden t-shirts, blue face masks, the ones I recognized on Gretchen Whitmer's face in some of her views on Charlie Langston's show. Now, remember, there was another story that we had again yesterday about how hardcore liberal activists were being recruited for these ballot counting centers. So these are people who are going to be willing to go along with the chicanery. So there's another poll watcher identified only as Patty with 9 years worth of experience, basically said that she observed military ballots that looked like Xerox copies, and they were all filled out for Biden. And there wasn't a single Trump vote. And she said none of the voters were registered. Election workers were manually entering the names and addresses and a birth date of January 1st, 2020, which would override the system and allow them to enter non-registered voters, of which she saw several during the day. Another poll watcher in Michigan is saying that he witnessed a shady 4 a.m. ballot dump for Joe Biden. He said dollies full of ballots were simply wheeled on in the back door. Now, what I am coming to the conclusion here is that, like 2016, they rigged this election for the Democrat. Unlike 2016, they had an emergency plan to go into effect if it looked like Trump's landslide was going to overcome the election fraud again, and somebody hit the panic button, which is where you got these boxes of ballots and these huge data spikes that don't make any sense, is they were desperately trying again to overcome a Trump landslide here. All righty, let's see. Democratic operatives in Michigan and Georgia were caught tampering with the military ballots, filling out new ones 100% for Joe Biden. There's a nonpartisan group of citizens and statisticians who are challenging the credibility of Michigan's election results. They looked at the official data, they conducted an audit, and found troubling signs the election was subject to interference by mail-in ballot and fraud and algorithms. And apparently there was a lot of funny stuff going in with those mail-in ballots. And Trump did warn us when the Democrats started saying, COVID, do a mail-in ballot. That's where a lot of the chicanery was going to happen. And remember, mail-in ballots, fraudulent mail-in ballots, were used to try and defeat Abraham Lincoln from his seeking an additional term in office. Apparently, there is this postal subcontractor was told that over 100,000 ballots in Wisconsin were gathered on November 4th and then backdated for election day. So that's another indication that somebody had hit the panic button here. Interesting development coming out of Missouri. Apparently, it's been discovered that Dominion failed to pay Missouri taxes and is not allowed to operate in the state. But of course, they are still running the elections there. All righty. Now, apparently, another rigorous statistical analysis. This is over in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And what they found was this anomalous update to mail vote totals in the New York Times Edison data, which enormously benefited Joe Biden. And they say it looks very, very suspicious on a lot of different levels. So more and more people are pouring in. They're looking at the data that was actually published by the corporate media, and they are finding problems. And there's been another expose over in Pennsylvania where Democrats used fake voter registration birthdays to commit voter fraud. And what they did was looked at all the birthdays of all the registrations, and the distribution doesn't match what you would expect to find from birthdays in the American population. And basically, they found a number of counties in Pennsylvania have these extremely unlikely distributions of voter birth dates. And there's 7 counties representing almost 1.4 million votes. That is massive, massive fraud. Now, up to 280,000 ballots disappeared following a trip to Pennsylvania from New York. This is coming from Amistad, which is the Amistad Project from Thomas More Society. And apparently these votes simply vanished in Lancaster, Pennsylvania after being transported by truck from New York. Now, the big issue here is why are they transporting ballots from New York for the Pennsylvania election? But remember, we had that story where a Chinese company was contracted to produce counterfeit ballots for the 2020 election. And if my memory serves me correctly, it's actually a felony to drive, it's a federal crime rather, to drive the ballots across state lines during an election. Republicans in the Pennsylvania legislature are predicting a constitutional crisis over the election certification. They're looking at every legal avenue that would reclaim their authority over the election procedures and dispute the 2020 election results until all the claims of widespread fraud have been completely resolved. And Representative Russ Diamond told the Epoch Times, we're in extraordinary times and we're doing an extraordinary amount of research to see what the possibilities are. And like we said on this show just last week, he said, you know, the outcome is simply to make sure that Pennsylvanians know every legal vote was accurately counted and the final results reflect that. That's the only thing I care about. And I'm in agreement with that. This has gone way beyond Trump versus Biden. And this is about whether we, the American people, still have any say in the running of this country. And if we don't, then we're basically back to the specter of taxation without representation, which when I was growing up and going to elementary school, I was told that's a really good reason to kick out the government. Okay, apparently, GOP Representative Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell, the attorney representing GOP Representative Mike Kelly and Sean Parnell have asked the U.S. Supreme Court to hear a challenge to Pennsylvania's mail-in voting. And I understand that some Pennsylvania lawsuit was filed at the Supreme Court this morning. Now, Ted Cruz has kind of come on out and said that the Supreme Court should hear this emergency appeal on Pennsylvania election challenge. He said it should be held under expedited review, and I'm sure the justices are not eager to get caught up in this mess, remembering what happened back in 2000. But we know at least one of the justices, Alito, is all in favor of the Supreme Court taking a good look at all of these cases here. Now, there's apparently yet another whistleblower. This is in Pennsylvania again, and a postal truck driver estimated that 144,000 to 288,000 completed ballots were driven across 3 state lines last October. So they've been stuffing the ballot boxes all along. Down in Fulton County, which is Georgia's most populous county, apparently it's now come on out that they cut corners during the second recount of the November 3rd election, meaning they didn't actually do a recount. And, everybody's tired of waiting in Fulton County because it's being delayed now on the claim that one of the Dominion machines has suffered some kind of a failure. And I'm sure they're scrambling down there to try and keep things looking proper. But at this point, the possibility of convincing the American people this was an honest and fair election, that is gone. That train has departed. That ship has sailed. And there was a poll that was out showing that half of Americans are already convinced this election was crooked. And there probably are a lot of people who didn't answer in the affirmative out of, misplaced patriotism or fear, or who knows what all else. But certainly it is a huge, huge percentage of the American people don't trust this last election. Now, down in Georgia, there's a progressive group linked with Stacey Adams that is reportedly under investigation in Georgia for seeking out-of-state residents and dead people to vote in the upcoming special election. Remember, yesterday we reported where registrations had already been found with out-of-state forwarding addresses. So the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, is launching these investigations into these groups, including the one founded by former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Adams, for seeking to aggressively register ineligible out-of-state or deceased voters before the January 5th runoff. So the cheating is continuing down there in Georgia. My goodness, it just keeps on going here. Now, over in Maricopa County, Arizona, the GOP chairwoman, Linda Brickman, testified before members of the Arizona State Legislature that she personally observed votes for Donald Trump being tallied as votes for Joe Biden when input into the Dominion machines. Now, Brickman, head of one of the country's largest counties and a veteran county elections worker, submitted her testimony in a sworn affidavit under penalty of perjury. So more and more people are coming forward. People are angry. People are very angry. They're very concerned that we don't really have a say in the running of this nation anymore. There used to be this little comforting thing, no matter how bad things got in this country, that next election we'll vote the bastards out. Well, guess what? We can't do that anymore. Anyway, Bill O'Reilly's out there with a new video saying why he thinks this election just does not make any sense. And he lays out these numbers indicating how the election just doesn't add up. Again, so even people in the corporate media are talking about this. And I noticed Fox News, maybe they're trying to regain their audience, but earlier today they were talking about how many doubts there are about the honesty of this election here. Now, Martin Armstrong is out there, and he's talking about a solution to the fraudulent presidential election. And at this point, I would say that probably we need to look at other elections besides Trump and Biden. We have had reports that Democratic candidates across the board were given 35,000 votes at the start. And so it's possibly the entire election was rigged for the House, for the Senate, for the state offices, for the governorships. And it's a huge mess. So Martin Armstrong is out there asking, can the election be a do-over? And of course, no, there is insufficient time. And the only solution is the election should be ruled null and void by the Supreme Court, which under the Constitution would throw it into the House of Representatives, where Trump would win, and the liberal Democrats would start rioting in the streets and burning down buildings here. And he's out there saying that he seriously doubted that even 25% of the people voted for Biden. And, he said, a lot of people voted for Biden just because they hated Trump. But again, it's just out there. And the Supreme Court, once before, back in the 1800s, ruled a presidential election null and void. I don't recall what it is that they did to try and fix it. But again, under the Constitution, if the election is declared null and void, that means the electors can't meet. And that means the election would be thrown into the House of Representatives. And then the screaming would really start. Over at the Daily Beast, and the rhetoric is just out of control. Apparently, an editor over at the Daily Beast is calling for the humiliation and incarceration for Trump supporters. That's 47 million people that we know of. And basically, Democratic members are calling for blacklists to the Lincoln Project to harass and abuse any lawyers representing the Republican Party or President Trump. And there's been one law firm that basically quit the case because they were getting threats on their lives and on their children's lives. Real brown shirt stuff out there. So, I mean, it's a disgrace. And the rest of the world is laughing at us, beacon of democracy, my astrolabe. Yesterday, Attorney General William Barr came on out with one of the stupidest, most unsupportable statements that he could make, where he basically said that the Department of Justice has not found enough evidence of election fraud to change the outcome. Now, this is a bit of propaganda we have seen in years before, where election fraud is suspected, where it's a limited hangout. They'll say, yeah, there was some fraud, but it wasn't enough to change the outcome. And we've heard that dozens of times before. Now, the White House, of course, had to respond and said there's been no semblance of a Department of Justice investigation, and there really hasn't. I mean, the FBI only started sort of making noises about looking at multi-state voters in the last few days here. And, the public reaction to Barr has been scathing, to say the least. So in an attempt to repair the now trashed reputation of the Department of Justice and Barr's own personal reputation, the Department of Justice issued a statement yesterday basically saying, well, we're not really done investigating election fraud, and so you shouldn't be too critical. Well, if you're not done investigating election fraud, why did Barr make that statement? Because as I understand the process of an investigation, you don't say anything about it until it is all over. So Barr really damaged himself, and even for those people not paying attention, he's damaged the image of the Department of Justice, damaged their reputation here. Okay, so over at the GregJarrett.com website, he's basically out there saying that the Democrat calls for unity is a joke, and it really is, and we'll give you more details about that after these words from our sponsors.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution, claim private retirement funds. Yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash? Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash. Will Congress pay the piper?
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that the Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. And come on, people, this is the Christmas season. It's the season of giving. And here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we've all been good little boys and girls all year long, depending on who you ask, of course. And so once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, so we're talking about this Democrats' call for unity. We've seen it a couple of times so far, and it's getting a lot of abuse and ridicule in response, and it really should, because for the last 3+ years, Democrats and the corporate media have relentlessly attacked President Donald Trump. They condemned his every idea, opposed his every initiative, trivialized his every accomplishment, denounced him as a racist, a womanizer, and a white supremacist. You tormented him with this outrageous lie that he was a Russian asset. And, all of these mendacious investigations to destroy his presidency. They've harassed, bullied, impeached, and censored him. And now all of a sudden they're saying, let's have unity and peace. I don't think it's going to happen. After watching how the other side has behaved these last 3.5 years, I think it's unrealistic to think a call for unity is going to have any effect at all, other than inspiring a great deal of laughter. Okay, getting on to non-election politics here, and it's getting weird out there, and I'm smelling panic, because apparently Chuck Schumer has proposed confirming Biden's cabinet nominations before the inauguration. And that, of course, is a tremendous breach of protocol. And he's proposing the Senate begin cabinet hearings for Biden's nominees weeks before the inauguration takes place. And I'm not exactly sure why he's trying to do that, but this is the same guy who led Democrats to slow walk the confirmation hearings for Trump nominees after he became president. In fact, Fox News reported in July of 2017 that Team Schumer had deliberately held up the Senate so that it had confirmed less than a quarter of Trump's nominees. And now he wants to put pedal to the metal and get Biden's people approved here. Now, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, who was a big supporter and booster of the Mueller probe, has now come out opposing Attorney General William Barr's decision to appoint U.S. Attorney John Durham as a special counsel into the investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe. And it almost seems like, Mr. Schiff has got something to hide there. And basically, Schiff was out there saying that the Attorney General in the Biden administration should assess Durham's mandate and decide whether to allow the prosecutor to continue the investigation. So here we have on one side, let's get the nominees appointed before the inauguration. And here we have on the other side, by golly, we've got to, we've got to hold up the special counsel until Biden's Attorney General can be in there to, basically put the cover up in place. And it's all wide out in the open for anybody paying attention here. Now, ABC, CBS, and NBC News ignored Barr's appointing John Durham as a special counsel to continue that investigation into the Russia probe origins. Fox News carried it. Of course, it's all over the independent media, but the corporate media, as always, is covering up for the deep state. Now, Chuck Schumer again said he agrees. He was in a press conference yesterday. He agrees with Joe Biden's plan to grant transgender children access to sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms according to their gender identity. And this is one of the liberal agendas that I think a lot of Americans are very uncomfortable with, where, some boy can use the girls' shower and locker room simply by saying, I identify as a girl. And that's, just because you identify as a tree doesn't make you one. I mean, I identify as a very rich talk radio host, but that hasn't happened yet. So anyway, so Schumer basically was out there saying that, Joe Biden is going to let these kids use all of these facilities, bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports. And of course, that is unfair to the girls' sports, because these boys who identify as girls easily outperform them. I mean, the reality is boys tend to be taller, have greater upper body strength, and every time a transgender student has been allowed to compete in girls' sports, they inevitably win. And it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I got to tell you right now. Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you when I get back from this next commercial break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen plan to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. Decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor? The preacher man wags his head while the rich man turns
Welcome
away.
back to our show here. And before the commercial break, we were talking about how Chuck Schumer is agreeing with Joe Biden that kids who identify as being the opposite gender should be allowed to use the bathrooms, shower facilities, locker rooms, and compete in the sports of the gender they identify with. And, you know, it seems like this is just spiraling out of control. And I want to make a point here. Okay. I don't care what hormone treatments you take or what makeup you wear or what clothes you dress up in or what you have the surgeons whack off of you with a knife. Your gender is in your DNA. Okay. And again, one of the dark secrets of the transgender community is how many people have gone through the hormones and the surgery and then regret it afterwards. And it bothers me that young people are being encouraged to be transgender, as if the transgender community is trying to build their own political base, no matter what the cost is to the kids in terms of psychological damage here. All righty, Ilhan Omar is out there still pushing to defund the Minneapolis police. And, you know, she's sticking to her guns, which I guess is admirable. But she wants to divert millions of dollars away from the police department in favor of violence prevention, which sounds like a really cushy government job that uses up a lot of money and accomplishes absolutely nothing. And Minneapolis is in the midst of a crime wave, which has resulted in citizens suing the city for failing to protect them. Now, Joe Manchin has called out Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on this same issue, saying not one senator supports defunding the police, and it is out of control. Getting on back to Minneapolis, apparently they have seen a shocking 537% spike in carjackings following, you know, the reduction in the police force. And I don't know, maybe this is what the liberal Democrats actually want is, you know, a crime in the streets. If you got a criminal government, why not have a criminal population? All right, now James O'Keefe and Project Veritas have scored again. I'm really beginning to admire what they do over there. And apparently they got hold of the phone number for these conference calls of the CNN editorial board. And apparently they have been recording them for 2 months. And Project Veritas released the first of these tapes just yesterday. And it involves network president Jeff Zucker. And the stuff on there is just horrific and tells you what we already know, that CNN is very much on the dark side here. So apparently the CNN executives were saying, you know, exaggerate anything that seems out of the ordinary. So the attack is still ongoing. I would say that probably Jeff and CNN as a whole are not 100% convinced that this election fraud is going to stand. It is all going to come down to the Supreme Court. Anyway, apparently something else Zucker said on these Veritas tapes was saying that President Trump refusing to concede is like 9/11. And that's the kind of rhetoric that we're seeing over there, you know, in the criminal news network. Pardon me. Apparently, also caught on the tapes here, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangle was detailing how the channel should cover up Trump's contested election claims. In other words, they're not going to report them to the American people. And, you know, we already saw where, you know, ABC, CBS, and NBC weren't covering the Durham promotion to special counsel here. So apparently CNN got triggered. They've called the cops on James O'Keefe. And of course, that's a little bit of hypocrisy because CNN published the Melania Trump audio, which was secretly recorded. So CNN has now issued a legal threat to James O'Keefe for recording the private meetings. And they're referring it to law enforcement. Now, I don't know which taping laws would be in effect because they change from state to state. Darcy, okay, Oliver, you need to go back to your Constitution and you need to read the First Amendment. Okay, because you're basically breaking the contract with America when you do that. Apparently, 4 authoritarian senators are begging YouTube to censor everybody who disagrees with the corporate media. And that's Senators Klobuchar, Hirono, Menendez, and Peters. I'm not surprised Hirono, they call her Crazy Maisie out there in Hawaii. Somebody did a poll here regarding Black Lives Matter, and the majority, not surprisingly, feel that Black Lives Matter have made racial tensions worse. Now, the poll was conducted by Opinionem, and found only 17% of respondents believe the movement has had a positive impact on race relations. A whopping 70% agree the movement has stoked racial disharmony. And yes, they definitely had. Well, Black Lives Matter may be in a little bit of trouble itself. There is a revolt by the local chapters, and this was actually covered on Fox News as well. And the local chapters are demanding answers on finances and transparency from the national leaders, because apparently millions and millions and millions of dollars have gone to the Black Lives Matter Global Network, which is the national group, and it hasn't been coming back to the local chapters. And inquiries as to where the money has gone. It's a non-lethal weapon, and apparently they were using them against protesters during the homeless camp clear-out. And at least 4 people were arrested. Apparently, the police were firing what were called non-lethal munitions to disperse crowds of protesters. So that's really getting ugly out there. You know, if all the homeless people in this country got angry at the same time, it would be a mess. All right, getting on over to COVID-19, and there's still a lot going out there. Remember, we reported, I think it was just yesterday, there was a bar on Staten Island that had stayed open, defying the COVID lockdown restrictions, and declared itself an autonomous zone. Well, I guess you shouldn't do that unless you have a defensive military, because the New York City Sheriff's Department raided the bar last night, shutting down the business, arresting one of its owners, putting him in handcuffs, and taking him away. Okay. Public Health in England has issued a statement. The PCR, the polymerase chain reaction test, is not able to detect an infectious virus. The PCR test, and the guy who invented the PCR test, and he won a Nobel Prize for it, it's to identify strands of DNA or RNA materials. And that's all it can do. And even he is saying this is not useful for a diagnostic test here. But Public Health England is saying the test cannot detect scientific flaws at the molecular and methodological level, and basically said they can all lead to false positive results. Over in Ohio, apparently articles of impeachment have been filed against Governor Mike DeWine in response to his coronavirus orders. And he's a Republican, and apparently the Ohio Republicans are the ones pushing for his impeachment. So even party lines are breaking down as people are just getting, we're tired of being lied to. Very obviously, the total number of deaths in this country has not increased. That came out of that Johns Hopkins Society, as they kept claiming COVID was rising. Seasonal flu was dropping to the point where CNN just quit tracking it. And it's more and more looking like they just grabbed a flu and said, oh, this is the new horrible disease. We're going to scare everybody into using mail-in ballots. Now, last week, I made a comment about my concern that materials from aborted embryos were being replicated and used in the new coronavirus vaccines. And I expressed a concern that these vaccines might result in female infertility. And this was based on a couple of cases where the World Health Organization was giving out free typhus vaccines in Africa, which were later discovered to have sterile. Has ordered mass COVID vaccinations to begin next week in Russia. And basically, he said that Russia's pharma industry is ready for a large-scale vaccination of the anti-COVID Sputnik 5 vaccine, and it will reach 2 million people in the coming days. The vaccination is going to be voluntary. So good for him here. Interesting little story, and this came out of Your Destination Now. Nearly 40% of healthcare workers say they are not likely to get the coronavirus vaccine because they're afraid the jabs were developed far too quickly to be safe. And of course, healthcare workers are expected to be among the first groups to receive the vaccine, but they're very, very wary about doing so. Down in Virginia, Governor Northam is saying there are no plans for a COVID-19 vaccine mandate. It will be voluntary down there. And that makes sense to me, because if you're vaccinated against COVID-19, why are you worried that I am not? I mean, just think about it. If you've got the vaccine and it's protecting you from COVID-19, then you shouldn't care if I have not been vaccinated, or for that matter, if I'm even wearing a mask. Now, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has stated publicly that Facebook is ready to work with Joe Biden to push COVID-19 vaccines. Now, this was a live stream interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci. 19 vaccines. Now, this over there, they are propagandists, as we saw during the 2020 election. Up in British Columbia, a church has been fined $2,300 for in-person services. What was really interesting is the police were unable to explain what law or order was actually being violated, but they hit them with the fine anyway. Over in Great Britain, and again, they may say this is voluntary, but if you don't get the shot, there will be consequences. So Nadim Zahawi, let me say that again. Nadim Zahawi is the newly appointed minister to oversee Britain's COVID-19 vaccine deployment. I'm going to take another break here, and I'll finish this story when we come on back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since
when your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. I hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real.
Going to be able to return to normal life because everybody around Britain is going to be demanding to see proof of vaccination. And he's saying that, if you're unable to demonstrate that you've been vaccinated, that you'll not be allowed access to restaurants, bars, sports venues, so forth and so on. So it's coercive, however you look at it. Okay. Now, apparently, there's an elite British Army unit that's being used to spy and combat anti-vax citizens. And it is very alarming and worrying to me that we have so much pressure to take a vaccination for this illness with a microscopic fatality rate. Again, I am very, very suspicious as to what is inside that needle. And like those 40% of medical workers who are doubting that they'll get the jab here, it was just rushed on through, and mistakes happen. Mistakes have happened before. Remember the 1976 swine flu debacle. Okay, turning to the international news here. Iran is continuing to release details around the assassination of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, and apparently a senior Iranian official has said that the Monofegin Group, or MEK, is may be involved in the assassination. Now, we know the MEK, and apparently they're on this island of Iturup in the Sakhalin region, and the heavy defense has now arrived. Over in the so-called Holy Lands, I like to call them the unholy lands, unfortunately, apparently Israeli soldiers were seen gleefully celebrating while they shot Palestinian protesters last week. And they fired tear gas and rubber and live ammunition at demonstrators in the West Bank. And this Anadolu cameraman caught them on the video. All right, we're going to take a break for station identification. When we come on back, we're going to open the phone lines and keep on trying to shove as much news at you as we can.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply clean, but do it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. We're going to open the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252. And we have a caller already on the line, Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Are you having a problem with your internet connection?
Why do you ask?
Well, I wanted to say it yesterday, but you were short on time when I called at the end of the show. But every time you seem to be on the cusp of saying some kind of truth, I'm getting this buffer underrun. So literally, I refresh, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this stuff doesn't exist
you're
anymore.
talking about the YouTube feed. You're talking about the YouTube feed.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Literally, the last hour, Mike, and I'm not kidding, your show has been unwatchable where I am.
Okay, well,
if it weren't for me,
go ahead.
It'd be nice if anybody else would chime in about this, because I think you're being censored.
It's entirely possible.
I'm not kidding. Like, I'm dead serious here.
Yes, don't watch Michael Rivero. Watch NBC, the National Board Corping Castration.
I would never do that. Anyway, it'd be nice if other people were watching the YouTube channel, if they would mention something. So that's all I have, Mike. Great show. I'm going to listen in. Thank you.
All right. Thanks an awful lot here. And getting on back to the news here, a lot of stuff happening around the Mideast here. And there's concern being raised that Turkey has perfected new and a deadly way to wage war using militarized drone swarms. And apparently Turkey and Azerbaijan were using this to great success. And a European Council analyst is out there saying you should be paying attention to that because it does represent a potential threat and a changing of the balance of power. Now, over in Ethiopia, they've got nearly a month-long war against their rebellious northern portion. It may be transforming into a guerrilla conflict, even though federal troops declared victory after capturing the Tigrayan regional capital over the weekend. So that may not have settled down after all. The United States State Department yesterday announced 6 new weapons sales, potentially worth a combined total of $1.55 billion, pushing the deals forward ahead of the potential transition. Let me clarify this. So you're saying it's hanging up where you are.
It's basically buffering every few minutes or so.
Okay, well, then it does seem like maybe YouTube is playing games with us because, Al in Canada and you're in North Carolina, and that's not good. Anyway, what's on your mind?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, about the election, about City Powell, and about Linwood.
Yes.
These guys are paid. We got to support them. I love the way they're really coming around on this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's hopeless anymore with Trump. I think he has a good shot. He made a great speech to the country. Said this may be the most important speech he said this is the most important speech I've made to you. And I believe he will definitely not leave until we're sure that this election was honest. And I think he's got some kind of military support. I believe that General McInerney, what he said about passing some kind of emergency act to ensure and have another election, a fair election, preferably just using paper ballots.
Yeah.
And also Lynn Wood said, I think we're coming close to them, Mike. I really do. I don't think this could be before.
Yes.
It changes your DNA for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
It can cause problems down the line. I think it's meant to sterilize, for one thing, since Gates is involved in this. I also think it's meant to kill, probably with cancer, because, again, if your cells change, that's what cancer is, okay? If there's no good, it's not necessary. We do not have a major disease going around. We have basically what's a common cold.
Yes.
All right? I don't care what anybody says. Most of the deaths are with serious comorbidities. Okay, I mean serious comorbidities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about just something or another here or there. I'm talking about really people, pretty much on the verge of death already. Okay, pretty much that's what most of these deaths are. For the most part, people, it's a bad cold. Some people take a little bit longer to get over it, probably because their immune system isn't that great. And other people get over it like in a few days. And most people don't even have any symptoms because they don't have it. That's a bunch of nonsense. That you can be symptomless and pass it around. That's garbage. This is something they're trying to push on us. Less and less people are buying it. The only places you really see people wearing a lot of masks in the liberal areas, it seems like, you don't see, like, I'm close to a fairly liberal city here, okay?
Yes.
And that city, see everybody and their mother wearing it pretty much, even outside. But when you go, maybe cough a little bit, have to clear my throat, maybe get a bit of a sore throat, okay? Most people don't even get that. And people who do get the sniffles, they run to these stupid testing sites and get tested. I mean, what's wrong with you people? Are you a bunch of hypochondriacs? Are you that stupid? Stop the testing. That's where they get these numbers from.
Yes.
Oh, the numbers show the cases. Like a friend of yours who doesn't even call anymore, used to be in your, used to call all the time. The cases. They're not cases. It's nonsense. It's all to scare you. They want you to take that vaccine. They want a lower population. Just look at the Georgia Guidestones. just understand Ted Turner. He was the one who put those things, who paid for it. I know they say I'm mysterious Mr. Christian. Just so happens it's in Georgia. It just so happens is all at the time, he's the creator of the Crap News Network. He's
Yes.
a billionaire. So who else would have it been? And we know he's a Malthusian on top of it, less population. Of course it was him. We just got to stand up against these people. We got to make sure. And by the way, I hope to God it doesn't. If we do have a civil war, I hope to God it won't be a race war. Because I know that the Gateses and people like that want a race war. Okay? Because,
yes.
And that's one thing that ups race war. Okay? Because,
yes.
And that's one thing that upsets me sometimes about some of the people who call you constantly in race. So one of you people even, and stopping them from killing us. And you guys know who I'm talking. I'm sure maybe a couple of callers will call back and say, the biggest problem is not illegal aliens. The biggest problem is not if we're going to stay a white nation, a black nation, a brown nation, which probably will be. We're probably pretty much, because, when you look at all the types of people in this country, we'll basically be a mixed country. And if you notice,
the melting pot.
Powell there, Sidney Powell, is married
yes.
to a black guy.
Yes.
Okay? She's as patriotic as they come. So stop worrying about race. It's not about race. It's about us, the United States of America, remaining constitutional republic and stopping the globalists. And if there's going to be civil war, it should be the people versus the establishment. And the establishment will lose very quick if that happens. And the military will side with the people. So that's all I got to say, Mike. If anybody wants to disagree and say that the biggest problem is people crossing the border, bring it on. But right now, that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is our war against these globalist scum. So that's all I got to say. Thanks, Mike.
Well, I agree with you, and thank you very much for the phone call, Mark. And before we take our next phone call, I am getting a lot of email from all over the place saying that their YouTube as well is breaking up, buffering. Some are saying that it comes back to.
It was in Frankfurt. It housed the Dominion server, and what the ascendant of the new power centers. The power centers that are coming out of this on top are the ones who were there before and remain. The prime and their primacy is the banks, the international, the bankers, you know who they are, the media, you know who they are as well, in partnership with the new one. The new partnership is with the secret police, and the secret police. And what was extraordinary is we have the U.S. military exchanging fire with the secret police, according to General McInerney. I hope, who knows whether it's true or not, but think about what an extraordinary event that is. And
let me throw a little cold water on this here a little bit. First of all, it's to be expected that various spokespeople within the military and Pentagon and Department of Defense are basically saying this story is a complete fabrication. And I think had this really happened, we'd be hearing about it from the German media as well. How dare you violate our sovereignty? And a big question I've had since the beginning of this whole thing about this computer server in Frankfurt is, why did they need to send the data all the way over to Frankfurt? Germany, and then bring it back when you could have another machine, like, for example.
Interesting that they're outside the United States. If it's, and if it's true, in a CIA facility. But what we do know for sure, Mike, is that they intervened in the election. We know for sure that they've been trying to coup Trump.
Yes.
Right? They've been doing it since 2016. They did it against Bernie Sanders. They're intervening in a massive way. And I just want to just go over the nature of what this organism is, this secret police that, by the way, bugged their own oversight committee several years ago.
I remember they broke into the computers. Yeah.
Yeah, their own people who are supposed to oversight them and threatened the staffers with treason charges. We know that they smuggle heroin, they smuggle cocaine, they smuggle all sorts of drugs. We know they're into human trafficking. We know that they're into arms trafficking, illegal arms trafficking. We know they make deals with drug cartels and head chopping Islamic militants. We know that they do murder for hire. That they have a murder. They have. We also know that they sell corporate trade secrets to people to the highest bidder.
Yes,
they do all this kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And then we think. Then I think back to the torture reports where they were raping little children in front of their parents in order to get them to talk. That they were disfiguring these little children in front of their parents.
And Gina Haspel.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed the newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
The newspaper? Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, a majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper does not give out the important attention on what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid, all need to make sure it survives. Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And welcome back to our show here. And we're finishing up with Peter in California. I think the only good thing we can say about current events is that everything is happening where anybody who's paying attention is going to see it. And people are just going to be angry. They're not going to want to live with this.
Well, Mike, this horrible, sinister power center that's the secret police, which includes, of course, the monarch, but this is the worst combination possible. All of them have it in for us. So that's my comment, Mike. We got to stand up to these guys. And I did that.
Yeah, we do.
Commercial in 7 minutes. There we go.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I don't think it's that bad, Mike. You got to look on the bright side, But anyway, Al and the guy is worried about the YouTube stream. All you got to do is listen to RBN. That works.
True.
You won't be able to see you on TV, but
Well, it's not like you need to see my face. If you really need to see my face, just go on down to the post office and look at the wanted posters.
look at the one post. I listened to a little bit of this guy Bill Cunningham he has a talk show on Sunday nights. He was a big fan of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And also he's been an attorney, I guess, for all his life. So you could say he's a legal expert, and he says he doesn't think Trump's going to win. He said, in fact, he said Trump goes to the Supreme Court, he's going to get bruised, screwed, tattooed, and barbecued.
Yes.
I guess that's legal terminology, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you have all those conservative justices currently sitting on the Supreme Court. You look how.
No, I mean, I wish Trump the best of luck, but looks like, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Nobody knows really what the hell to do. They say they can still, if they just get enough of these states to say, the legislature says, no, this election's screwed up. We're not going to go with the vote because the vote's screwed up, and then they're just saying we're going to send our own electors. And if just a couple of the states like that, then Biden ends up with less than 270, which he needs to win. Then it goes to the House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another big brouhaha there because Nancy's she's going to try to railroad it through anyway. But by law, every state has one.
That's true.
Vote.
That's true. So
And
the
the
Democratic
Republicans
majority
would
in the
win,
House
but-
is not going to be able to change anything.
Yeah. No. No. That's not the way it works. It's the state legislatures will send one person.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's basically it's one vote per state, and right now in the House of Representatives, the Republicans have more states than the Democrats do. The Democrats have got the big states with lots of representatives, but the Republicans have got all those small states.
No, that's not the way it works, Mike. It's the state. It's the state legislatures are mostly Republican.
To the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Kosher.
Reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
What this country is coming to,
I sure would like to know if they don't do something by and by. The rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones here to Joe in Tennessee. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Oh, all right. Here we go. I fall asleep being on the phone and waiting this long, but what can you do?
Well, I understand they feed my show over the phone while you're waiting, so if you fell asleep, then that says something bad about me.
Yeah. And same way in Georgia with the deal between Stacey Abrams and the governor. The Democrats want to stack the court, right? They want to pack the court. So that's an attack on the Supreme Court as an institution. So, they deep in their interest to kind of work for Trump's interest, and it's not like a leap like Robert's tax thing with Obama. I mean, on constitutional grounds, Trump has a very strong case. So it'll be whether their loyalty is to the deep state or the Constitution and their institution. So it's not just their loyalty to the deep state, which if it was just deep state versus Trump, they would go deep state. But being it's deep state versus Trump and the institution of the Supreme Court being packed, I think they might go with Trump. The other thing is the Republicans, same thing with them. And it's kind of like we all know they hate Trump. But they need Trump or Mitch McConnell's going to be minority leader, and I was watching Lynn Wood once again in Georgia, and he's basically saying, governor, secretary of state, and you senators that are running, if you don't start talking about this election and how we want, to a general assembly to look into this fraud, you're out on your what. And he called that Loeffler and he called Perdue out and said, don't vote for, there's like 10,000 people there. And he said, don't vote for them until they start showing who they're for. And I totally agree. The Republican Party will be destroyed. He's just being, a little whiner in front of the cameras to make Trump look bad. But then I thought, he actually, if there ever is a civil war, that guy should probably have a target painted on his back, because guys like that go along with this, people died in the Revolutionary War for our right to vote and our right as a republic and Civil War, all that stuff. And then to have, these rotten little weenie lawyers, scheming to do away and dilute our votes and steal our votes. I mean, they should be sent to Gitmo, and I was never against torturing, the Muslims when we were fighting them over there, because the whole 9/11 thing, it was an unjust war. But if you're going to steal my right to vote as an American and basically crap on my Constitution, I think maybe torture is in the cards for you. I mean, morally, I'm kind of against it. But
I'm a traditionalist. I'm a traditionalist. I favor tar and feathers. But, I understand your
run
anger.
Out on a rail.
Use a redwood one. They leave really deep splinters. I understand your anger. I'm angry. I get a lot of phone calls that are angry. I get a lot of emails from people who are angry. I'm hoping this is not going to lead to massive violence in the streets. But I do fear that if the Supreme Court nullifies the election and throws it into the House of Representatives, and as one of our previous callers pointed out, they don't have to nullify the entire election, just pencil.
And I'll tell you one thing, I just, there's a lot of people that need to go to prison over this. I don't understand how so many people, like, if all these people are committing this out and out fraud everywhere, I mean, even though they are corrupt cities, it's still a crime. I mean, these people need to be put in prison for doing this. I mean, some of them when worse, if you ask me. But anyway, I'll let you get back to other callers. Thanks for hearing me out.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call here. And again, I understand your anger. I'm dealing with that myself. Let's switch over to James in Vancouver. Hello, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon. The vaccine they talk about a messenger RNA.
Yes.
I believe that will be simply like a retrovirus, or sometimes called an oncogene, which is, of course, a gene that
yes
will make one susceptible to cancer. There's another hint also that's interesting in this, is that they talk about the vaccine having to be at minus 94 degrees Fahrenheit. And there's someone talking that there's polyethylene glycol
Mm-hmm.
in the vaccine, and that this polyethylene glycol, I believe, when it's below 94 degrees Fahrenheit, it won't move. But as the temperature goes up, there's a very important concept in polymers chemistry called glass transition temperature.
Okay.
You're probably this was what the Nassau problem was in 1986. Morton Stackall and Nassau and the O-ring.
Yes.
And so, anyway, I just wanted to get that out there, and maybe other people could check it out or something like that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the information, and thank you very much for the call. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
When you get my disability, man. How much you getting my disability?
Tom? Tom, are you there? Tom, are you there? Tom in Florida, are you there? Yeah, you're on.
But I ain't got it yet.
Okay, well, I guess Tom in Florida wasn't paying attention here. And so I'm going to go back to the news for a little while until Tom gets his act together. All righty. So we're talking about COVID-19 here. And apparently, this is sort of bridging between COVID-19 and the economic news here. Apparently, the coronavirus stimulus talks have restarted, and the centrists in Congress have unveiled what appears to be a bipartisan plan. This was also on Fox News earlier today. Legalize marijuana. And apparently it went to the House floor today, along with a bill to ban breeding and private ownership of tigers and other big cats. It's nice that they've got their priorities straight over there in the Congress there, at least in the Democratic side here. All righty, we're going to take another phone call here. Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Bob. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Hey, with all this election stuff, I kind of follow the fruit of the poison tree. And I know you know what that is, and many people are familiar with that. Mm-hmm. But if one of these ballots is spoiled, if this many ballots are spoiled, if this much shenanigans are going on, and it's all traceable back to the Democratic Party or Democratic constituents who aren't allowing recounts and monitors and every simple thing, violating court orders, I think that it should be canceled, that their votes should be nullified in the state, and then they can individually sue the states for not being able to properly run an election. And I also think that the Democratic Party should be held with their operatives. It's been shown now time and time again that they've interfered. They should be responsible for paying for the elections. And I want to get your comments on none of this crazy stuff. Something that a group of some type of certified or authorized group of representatives to deal specifically with elections approves of, and the rules are all out there on the board before another election even takes place. I think that
it would take at least a year. There's going to be a lot of resistance to changing the system because too many people have benefited from the crooked system. We're talking about another year, and I don't think the Supreme Court will go with a redo as a remedy here. In fact, the only remedy they've got is to throw it into the House of Representatives. I don't think they want to go through what they went through in 2000, where they basically declared George W. Bush president, even though it does appear that Al Gore actually won. So again, I would like to see the election system overhauled. Again, up at the top left corner of my main page, I have an article describing how you can have honest elections. And I'm not saying it's rig proof, but it would be a lot harder to rig than what we just saw. I mean, our current system is set up to facilitate election fraud and to basically conceal it from any kind of investigation.
Well, I agree with that, Michael. I agree with your article up there and everything, and that's fine. But until they implement something, I think you don't do anything with Trump. He remains in office because we don't know if anybody won or lost, period. We don't know who won or who lost. And we know,
looking at the numbers, I think Trump.
We don't know who won or who lost. And
I'm going to be pounding on the door of the White House saying now is the time to fix the election system so that we don't have to go through this again.
And I agree, Michael. And I just love it what you say all the time, allowing the dictatorship to rear their heels and show everybody what they're about.
Yep.
It's exactly what's going on. And if the Supreme Court passes the ball, well, honestly, what in the hell do we need them for?
Well, I would agree. And believe it or not, in the Constitution, the Supreme Court really wasn't given the authorities that it has arrogated since then. And so they have grown a little too big for their britches. Okay, Miles, I got to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
We've got more callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly.
Market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, this is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417.
I was speaking earlier. My understanding is it was actually made in like 2 days in January of 2020. And
Yes.
that's one of the things they're talking about. These types of vaccines, they're actually going to start pushing these mRNA vaccines more because you can make them quicker. Obviously,
Yes.
there's no safety or proper animal testing. So we're going into a new type of vaccines and so this is what's really
We're all being
also
used
negative
as
about
guinea
this.
pigs here, because the
As guinea pigs, yes, sir.
the clinical trials are only for a few weeks here. And especially when you're messing with DNA, you might not see any adverse reactions for years.
For years. And here's the other thing, Mike. If I'm also understanding, if you listen to a doctor named Carrie Madej, she talks about this a lot. She's saying just like a genetically modified fruit or vegetable, the company owns that vegetable, unlike an organic corn or organic vegetable or whatever. So in essence, legally, there's a possibility, and she talks about this, there's a possibility that people's kids or even us, if we get these genetically modifying or mRNA modifying vaccines, there's a potential legally they could, use this and say, hey, look, we found out in your DNA you're actually owned by this company, so you have to do this and do that. That's, as crazy as that sounds, I mean, they could pull that type of stunt. And here's my
well, it doesn't sound that crazy now. Now, I don't think. Well, it doesn't sound that crazy now. Now, I don't think it means chattel ownership in terms of slavery. But what it does mean is they could come out and say, "We own." You move closer to the mic.
You hear me, Mike?
Much better. Okay. So, I think if Trump decides he's not going to win, his contest against the crooked election here, I think he should pardon a whole bunch of people just to irritate the deep state here. And that would include Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And I'd like to put in a push for Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu-Jamal. I think they've spent enough time in jail for things they didn't really do. Anyway, Tom, I am sorry.
I agree, Mike.
We are out of time, and I apologize to those callers waiting on hold who did not get through. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. He's got Steve Elkins on as a guest with him tonight. I'm sure they got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. It has never been more critical. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.